What is going on, everybody? TDR Trade a Black podcast as we once again touch down here in Toronto, Canada. Today, we want to give you content that gives you an inside look and some information about the legal framework and how it looks within the province of Ontario. This is a province right now with close to 15 million people, and the growth potential in this market is massive when you look over the next 10 years. So, when we look at the cannabis space, this is a country that federally legalized cannabis back in 2018, and their Attorney General, Doug Downey, was appointed back in 2019, and one of the main initiatives as him being appointed was to combat the black market within the cannabis space. So, what have we learned? Where are we today, 5-6 years later? And most importantly, how does the growth of this industry continue to expand and meet the consumer's needs, knowing the population growth? So, we're going to go inside SNDL, one of their main dispensaries here on Bloor Street West in Toronto, Canada, called Value Buds. We take a look as to what's going on as far as how many consumers they get, and most importantly, getting information from the Attorney General on where this industry is going. So let's go inside and have a look. TDR Trade a Black podcast on location with Attorney General of Ontario, Doug Downey. Good to see you. How are things?
Things are great. I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah. Well, listen, I wanted to have you on because, as you know, we cover the cannabis space. And you actually were appointed Attorney General back around the same time the federal legalization happened in Canada. So fast forward 5-6 years later, how would you best describe where the legal market is right now in the province of Ontario?
Yeah, so I'm going to go to first principles, which our goal was to go after the illegal market, the black market, and protect kids, protect communities. Those are the three core principles for us. And I think we've done a good job in Ontario in terms of certainly in communities and protecting kids. There's more work to be done in the illegal market for sure.
Where are we at percentage-wise when it comes to, do you have an idea, legal dispensaries compared to black market today versus, say, where it was 5 years ago?
I don't have any numbers that I think I can share, but I can tell you we're not far enough into taking over the black market as I would like to be at this point.
Yeah. Where do you see, I guess, the industry growing and the amount of jobs that it could create? Because, yes, and we've done a lot of work both here in Canada and in the U.S., and the perception is still very much it's classified as a Schedule I drug. It's supposed to be rescheduled. I think more and more Canadians are starting to see with federal legalization that it's becoming more of a mainstream, I guess, lifestyle. But how do you see this, I guess, overall industry emerging and therefore creating jobs within the province?
Yeah, so what I've seen is really, and not just in social circles, but across the province, there definitely more acceptance that it's a legitimate product. But we're also not at a spot where, as you mentioned, it's not really a pharmaceutical per se, but there is great research going on in that area, and it's going on because it's become more socially acceptable. So it's shifting right now.
Is there any major concerns that come to mind about where the industry is now and what you feel needs to change?
Well, we took a free market approach. So as you know, we didn't say, we're going to cap the number of stores, we're going to cap the concentration of stores. We said, we're going to let people be adults and we're going to let the market decide. And so we've seen a shift where, and we didn't really know, but in the pre-consultations back when we started, we didn't know if there's going to be concentration, like you see with car dealers, where they all end up in the same space, or if they were going to be spread out. And so we're seeing a bit of both. The market's figuring itself out on that. There were a lot of people that came early into the industry, and some have cycled through, some have not, some have grown. So again, I don't think we're at an endpoint right now. I think we're still in early days.
Yeah, well, it's a big opportunity. Like, as you said, in the early stages, there were a lot of companies. But for those that have survived, I guess, through this price compression that's happened over the past couple of years, there is tremendous upside. One thing that you guys did announce back earlier this year in January was the cap size, and you increased it from 75 to 150. What was the thought process behind that?
Yeah, it's simple math. We started off with a projection. We thought there would be 750 stores, but again, we let the free market decide. We ended up with 1,700. So we went from 75, which was 10%, to 150, which is a little less than 10%.
Yeah. When we look back, there was the whole lottery license that was put in place. Once that was pushed aside, you saw a flood of dispensaries that came into Ontario. Looking back at now, what have you learned, I guess, through that?
Yeah. So again, context. When we got elected in 2018, it was clear it was coming. The federal government decided it was going to happen, so it was up to us to manage it. And there are a number of files like that where the federal government decides the principle, and then we have to figure out how to execute. And we were moving very fast. Coming out, we knew there was great interest. some speculators, right? Not all people who wanted to be in the market for the long term. And that drove some of the decisions on whether we did the lottery, how we did the lottery, and then how we moved beyond it.
What do you think? Like, here we are. This is actually a company or a dispensary called Value Buds. Parent company is SNDL, one of the biggest Canadian LPs, trades on the NASDAQ. When you look at some of these companies that are still trading, that are providing value, are you impressed with the infrastructure that some of these Canadian companies are building?
The investment in locations, in, upgrades, whether they're leasing or whether they're owning, people are putting real money and a lot of money into real stores. There's a level of professionalism when you look around. It's clean. Some of it's because of regulation, some of it's by choice. But people come in, and the number of people that came in early on, and we learned this in consultation with Florida and other jurisdictions before we went live. A lot of people come in to get educated.
Totally.
And it's not always maybe their first time even talking about it, and all age ranges, certainly elderly people. So it's
what's some of the feedback that you get? Yeah. Because again, like we've talked about the perception of cannabis, and I think for people that don't follow the space, there's a lot of questions, I think, for people that do follow the space that give comparisons to alcohol. And here we are 100 years later around prohibition. And I think that's the times that we're living in right now. But when you open up, let's say, a dispensary location in this area and some of the feedback that you get from residents around here, like what are examples that you hear?
Well, there was early angst, right? There was early angst. What's going to happen? We've got this cannabis store in my neighborhood. Well, there was a cannabis dealer in the corner already. And so we didn't have safe supply in that sense. We didn't have a regulated market. And again, we're trying to protect kids. We're trying to protect communities. And some of that is making sure that we have professionalism. Are
you seeing that?
I'm seeing that. You look around. It's clean. There's standards. We know the product being sold is being sold with standards, and there's competition.
Yeah. One of the big things that was brought up amongst a number of Canadian LPs was the excise tax. That was a big topic, and we saw price compression come down, yet the excise tax has stayed relatively the same. So do you think the validation of that actually gets retabled at some point? Like, where does that sit?
Yeah, one of the early decisions was to make sure the price point was such that it could compete with that black market. And we made a commitment. We had the federal government join us in that commitment. So I think it's up for rediscussion at a period. Again, we're a few years in now. The federal government's done its review on certain parts of the industry, and we're open to have that discussion.
You think it will happen again?
I think it has to in terms of cycle. We're still after the black market. We're not done there yet.
How much do you think, if you had to best describe where this industry is 3-4 years from now, and it taking a chunk out of the black market, is there a goal that you have in mind?
Yeah, I think we want to see other industries, and I don't want to compare industries. These are very different. But in the iGaming industry, we're running at about 80%. Huge numbers of legal market, regulated market. Yep. So it is achievable to get the numbers up.
Well, listen, appreciate your time. Want to get kind of a better idea as what you think as far as government officials as to where the legal framework is, and most importantly, to give our viewers an idea of what Ontario looks like, what we've learned, and most importantly, where we're going. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks. Hey everyone, thanks again for watching. Hey, we're humming along, and it's all because of you and the audience and community that we're building. So again, make sure to smash on that like button and leave lots of comments. Who do we have up next? You let us know. Who should we interview? What companies? Is there anything you like? Is there anything we're missing? We're all here for you. Let's get on with each other and build this community for all of us to benefit. As usual, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, because in the end, we wouldn't be here without you. Thanks again, everyone.